Today's episode of Dial It Up has been brought to you by Big Giant Head Incorporated.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Dial It Up. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about criticals, both critical hits and critical misses. So starting off, what is a critical? So critical hits and critical misses happen when you roll either double sixes, which is critical hit, or double ones, which is critical miss. So starting off with critical hits, when you roll two sixes, that is considered a critical hit. And there's a couple of game effects that happen when this occurs. The first being is that a critical hit always succeeds. It's always considered a successful hit regardless of what you needed to roll to be able to hit something. So even if you have an 8 attack and they've got a 22 defense, there's no way you can roll a 14 on two pairs of dice. But if you get two sixes and get a critical hit, it's going to succeed regardless of the math involved. The next thing that happens with a critical hit is that you increase the damage dealt by 1. And I've done an episode previous about damage dealt, damage value, damage taken. If you guys want to check that out, that explains that more in depth. But basically that's going to be an extra damage tacked on after everything to the people that you're hitting. Now, I recently talked about attacking multiple characters. If you get a critical hit while attacking multiple characters, that's going to do an extra damage to each hit character that's being dealt damage. Even if you're only dealing 0 damage to them, that critical hit will still deal that one character 1 damage. Then we move on to critical misses. So this is the bane of most Heroclix players, is the double ones, the snake eyes, the critical miss. Why this is such a horrible thing whenever it shows up is that critical misses are an automatic loss. Just like critical hits are automatically succeed, critical misses, regardless of what you needed, even if you have a 12 attack and they have a 10 defense, that never happens, but you know what is possible? Like a 15 attack and a 14 defense.
Sheep only have 9 defense.
So anyways, regardless of what you needed with the math involved for hitting a character, if you roll double ones, it's going to miss regardless. The next point on critical misses on that is that you're going to take one unavoidable damage. There is no way to get around a critical miss damage except for probbing out of it. So unless that dice roll gets changed to something else, you have to take that damage. Which there are multiple stories about people who critical miss into killing themselves. It is a thing that happens. Now we're going to get into the weird part. And that is when critical hits and critical misses combine with powers. Now the two powers I want to look at is incapacitate and support. So with incapacitate, it is considered a attack that deals no damage. Now just recently, within the last few years, incapacitate was altered and changed so that if a character has 2 action tokens, when you incapacitate them, you're going to deal them 1 penetrating damage. So even though you are dealing that 1 damage, it's still considered an attack that deals no damage. So it gets into this weird conundrum where even though you're hitting that, you're dealing damage to that character. If that was a critical hit to get you to hit that, you're not going to be able to deal that extra damage because it's considered an attack that does no damage. It's an attack that does no damage, it's dealing damage, but does no damage, so you can't do extra damage. You get all of that?
You broke the man.
The next power that I wanted to talk about was support. Now, support actually works on both spectrums, where it gets altered by a critical hit and a critical miss. With a critical hit, if you roll a critical hit while you're trying to support one of your friendly characters, you actually get a super hyped up healing and that you get +1 to your D6 when you heal your figure. So whatever your roll was, going through the normal steps of support, whatever your roll was, you're going to add an extra healing to that if you get the critical hit. Now, if you have a critical miss when you're supporting, normally that critical miss is going to cause you to take damage, but instead, it's going to cause the person you're healing to take damage. So, kind of the worst situation you want to get yourself into, where rolling a critical miss is actually going to hurt another character. So, as a side note, I went over the 2 major powers that we wanted to talk about with critical hits and misses. The other one that isn't all that important, but what I wanted to mention with is mind control. Much like incapacitate, mind control is an attack that deals no damage. When you have an attack that deals no damage, critical hits and misses don't matter. So when I mentioned with the incapacitate, where it was attack that dealt no damage, doing damage that deals no damage, so you can't increase the damage. With mind control, there's no way to actually deal damage with mind control unless there's a special power that's doing it. So a critical hit with mind control doesn't do anything because you're not dealing damage. But on the flip side, a critical miss, you don't take any damage with mind control because you're not dealing damage in the first place. So that's actually pretty cool. So that was critical hits and misses. And if you guys think there was anything I didn't go over, questions, comments down below, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Dial It Up.
Married with Clix is brought to you by Majestic's Heroclix sales down in Costa Mesa, California. Right now, they're in the middle of storefront change. In the meantime, don't forget to check out their eBay store. If you check the link down below, they always have great Heroclix stuff at fantastic prices, and they'll ship just about anywhere.